6.6, which was our 10 a.m. item for consideration of census tracts to advocate for opportunity zones selection, and I'll turn that over to Mr. Rickelman.
Good morning, Board. Ben Rickelman, Deputy County Administrative Officer. So with the passage of the reconciliation bill last year, opportunity zones were made permanent in the federal tax code. And I was going to give a presentation, an overview of the program itself, and then the eligible census tracts that the governor could nominate to be designated opportunity zones here in Lake County. So the program was originally created back in the first Trump administration with the tax cuts, job creation, the first reconciliation bill. Those opportunity zones were designated and have been active since 2017. Here in Lake County, it's 3 in the Clear Lake area. And I think the very high level concept to keep in mind with opportunity zones, it's basically with federal capital gain tax primarily incentivizing private development, overwhelmingly in commercial real estate. So the designations will now happen every 10 years that they're permanent, and it'll go, the governor's office has the power to nominate up to 25% of eligible census tracts in their state, and then it goes to Treasury. So for the time frame for this round is the governor has to make a decision by, or transmit the decision by July 1st of this year, and then they would come into effect at the beginning of 2027. So what are opportunity zones? The top benefit is if there's kind of a middle fund, a qualified opportunity fund, and for an investment that's made, and if the investment's held for at least 10 years, any appreciation on that, the capital gain, that there is no, once that asset is sold, there is no federal capital gains tax on that. So that's pretty attractive. There's a few other benefits. There is, when the capital gains are put into the fund for investment into opportunity zones, instead of that exit triggering a tax, you can defer it for 5 years. And then there's also a step up in basis with the funds put into the Opportunity Zone Fund, where if it's held for 5 years in a rural Opportunity Zone Fund investment, that there's a 30% step up in basis. So that basically means, like, let's say someone makes $1 million in the stock market. So that's that $1 million capital gains. They put it in the Rural Opportunity Zone Fund. It's held for 5 years. So only 70% of that $1 million is subject to the federal capital gains tax. And then let's say that $1 million is invested in a rural project and it appreciates in to, let's say, 2.5 million. So you have a gain on that of 1.5 million, and they've held it for 10 years. There's no federal capital gains on that once they exit for that appreciation. Started with $1 million, that 300,000 is exempted, and then if they held it for 10, that 1.5 appreciation is also exempted if it's held for 10. So there's no grant funding involved with this. There's no tax credits. It's all private investment. Kind of the workhorse of opportunity zone investments what we've seen has been primarily multifamily, some large retail and industrial. So I thought this was just illustrative. So the Economic Innovation Group is a think tank. They were one of the primary movers to get this program set up, and they've sponsored this research. And because opportunity zones are income qualified, they were 80% or below of median family income were qualified census tracts, and now for this round they tighten up a little bit, and it's 70% or below. So as you can see, before implementation, these census tracts had less growth in housing, less investment in multifamily and single family, and now we've seen that flip. And then this is showing, so all these census tracts are income qualified, but the yellow is opportunities, are the census tracts that were chosen as opportunity zones, and then the green were eligible census tracts but were not chosen. And that just shows over time the level of investment. So these are the current opportunity zones, and there will be a 1-year overlap between the current ones and when the new ones come into effect. And this is the part I will be looking for board and community input. So there are 9 census tracts in total that are eligible for selection. And as mentioned before, how the program's set up is 25% of eligible census tracts can be nominated. So I think it's reasonable to expect this, the governor's office to select maybe 3 or 4 in Lake County. So I'm just gonna refer to the last digits in these listings because they all have the same at the front end. These are the census tract numbers. So the first one is primarily Lakeport 402. And I was just gonna mention some development ideas again, because this is predicated on private capital coming in. It's not grant funding. So in Lakeport, we do have the multi-phase Vista Point redevelopment occurring. And then I think another possible project that could be of interest to people looking at opportunity zone investing is the Dutch Harbor site just north of Hoboken Park that the city of Lakeport has marketed for hotel development. The second one is little south of Lakeport, Finley, and Kelseyville. And that also includes Lamson Field. We'll say for this one, the community, there has been some preference shown for the small area plans. There's some industrial zoning north of Kelseyville that could be attractive for development. These are the next two, 501 and 602. One change with the program that could be of interest of here is before they had a 100% substantial improvement requirement. And so that meant the value of the property had to double. And so, you know, they have that in place to make sure real investment's happening. But for rural areas now, they have a 50% threshold. So with 100%, that basically pushes you, for the most part, into greenfield development. So building new structures, new development. Whereas at 50%, a substantial renovation could qualify. So the Lucerne Castle could be a project because that's going to take a lot of work to make it code compliant and whatever that's envisioned. It's a pretty large property. So that's a possibility. And then we have 602 here. We have the Oaks and the Keys, 601 and 704. And then these are 2 of the Clear Lake census tracts, 802, 801. We have seen a decent amount of development in the Clear Lake area, both in multifamily and medium scale and large scale retail. And it's seen a good amount of growth recently. So I think this could also be attractive. and there's one other Clear Lake Census Tract 702. So open to all suggestions. If possible, I think it would be good to coordinate with the cities and have a combined letter, but it's not required at all. We don't have any legal power over this process. But if there could be a combined letter to the governor's office, that would be great.
Supervisor Pyska?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't sure if the cities would be sending in separate letters or if we would make recommendations for the cities to include them. How would that work?
So I just spoke briefly with the Lakeport city manager, and he would be open if there's kind of agreement or consensus built to discuss it with the Lakeport City Council and then get a joint letter together.
It would probably be stronger if we had
Yeah.
a joint letter. And then which opportunity zones currently exist?
Sure, I can go back to that slide. It's 3 opportunity zones, that dark green area there, basically in Clear Lake.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thanks.
Anything further from supervisors? Questions at this point? Not seeing any. I'll go ahead and open it up. Or Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah. Just for clarification, you anticipate that once the governor's office makes a final decision, that it'll be 3 to 4 census tracts here, but we're looking at offering 9 at this moment in time, is what I understood.
So there's 9 eligible census tracts. So those are the census tracts that could be nominated. But the law is 25% of the eligible census tracts can be picked. So those are all the ones that qualify with the income qualifications. But because of that 25%, that's where I'm getting to that 3 to 4 number.
And just to kind of ask, the main purpose behind opportunity zones is to increase the opportunities within those areas because of the fact that there's a lack of opportunities already in existence.
Yeah, you're basically making it more financially attractive to develop there because you have less of a tax burden in there that therefore pushes private investment development to lower income areas.
With the impact being increased property values, increased economic opportunities for household income to go up, so on and so forth.
Correct.
Okay. And I know that you said you spoke with the Lakeport city manager. I know that we have the Clear Lake city manager here, so hopefully we'll hear from him during public comment. How would you like us to make a decision based on the 9? I would prefer, I'd love to say let's send all 9, but I also don't want the governor to choose for us, because then at that point we get what we get. What's your suggestion on what we finish with today? That we dwindle it down to 4, or that we say yes to what you're showing us as the 9 eligible census tracts?
I would prefer dwindling down to 4 so we don't have the dynamic you just said of giving the governor a list of 9 and then they have to make the decision. So it does offer a substantial benefit. That being said, the development still has to pencil and there still has to be development activity. So I think anywhere where we think there's going to be likely development activity, there's kind of a realistic path forward. I think that's where we should concentrate.
Okay.
Anything further?
I'll wait till after.
We'll go ahead and open it up to the public. Do we have any members in the room who wish to comment? See City Manager Flora.
Good morning, Chair, board members. Wasn't planning on speaking on this, but Mr. Rickelman did reach out to me a couple of times to talk about this. Unfortunately, I haven't connected with him. As you know, I've been focused on a few other things the last few weeks, but we would be more than happy to coordinate with Lakeport and the county to have coordinated approach. I think it's probably more likely to have a little bit stronger voice in doing it all separately. We've had a lot of interest over the years that I've been with the city related to the Opportunity Zone. No one's actually taken advantage of it. My experience up to this point has been that there's the more sophisticated development folks are the ones that are aware and understand this and are willing to work through the complexities of the financial benefits of a project in the zone. It's very difficult for us to attract those large-scale developments in Lake County, just generally speaking. And so, I think it's something that I'm glad that we're paying attention to it. Hopefully we continue to have some designations here locally, and we'd be willing to work with the county and the city to do so.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? Not seeing anyone. Do we have anyone online? No hands. I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board. Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier. Or sorry, I didn't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick question. When is this due? I apologize if I missed that.
July.
There's no specific due date to submit comment, but the governor needs to transmit the list to the federal government July 1st.
So I just a suggestion, rather than us pulling out boxing gloves and figuring out who survives and what census tracts come out of this, I would suggest meeting with both cities, figuring out what the 5 census tracts that comes out of that meeting and bringing that back to us to see if that's something that we approve.
That sounds great.
Supervisor Crandall.
Yeah, and I think you showed some of the benefit, the community benefit in there. You showed like an overlay of like 2 or 3 different things that line that out. But I just want to make sure that while we do this, to specify some of the other, community benefits. We want to make sure that this happens in my district a lot. People get the properties and it sits dormant, and they're from outside of the county, and then people like with restaurants try to come in, and then they're kind of bled out, and these buildings sit dormant, and so it's just what happens. And so I'm worried that a group comes in and does that, and then we don't get a community benefit. And then also if they are developing and then they bring an outside entity that doesn't provide any type of community benefit. So I just want to have some sort of guidelines there to make sure that there's something in place that we're not just put in that spot. Does it make sense?
I get your concern. So we don't have any control over this program. It's a federal program. We can suggest and advocate for selection, but
That's all we're doing is
Yeah.
selecting. Okay, then I babbled for nothing. Sorry.
no problem.
And I'll say that I think it's a good idea to meet with the cities and collaborate and give us a little more information in a couple of weeks. Or I know we don't want to delay it too long. I know there's no deadline, but
Yeah, I think that communication can happen fairly quickly, and we can get in front of the board pretty quickly again to have a final list.
okay. Supervisor Peiske.
I just have one further question. When we give the recommended tracks, are they ranked or weighted, or do we do that, or we just say these are the 4 that we would like considered?
We can make that argument. There's no program requirement or anything like that, but we could describe to the governor's office, because I don't think they're going to have a good feel on why to pick particular census tracts in Lake County. Like, they can run the demographic information, but they're not going to have a good handle on kind of the development picture here, kind of what are the local idiosyncrasies or community concerns, are like what do we think is actually more likely for something to occur. So I think it's just, we shouldn't just provide like 5 census tract numbers. We should provide a narrative why we think this makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Any supervisor?
Actually, we're on the same wavelength today. I was thinking the ranking system. as well as the next two down, if you could bring back to us, and just in case we have some kind of thoughts, like, you know. So I was going to say go 5 or 6 deep.
Sure. We can structure it that way.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks like nothing further, but it sounds like we have consensus for direction. So we'll go ahead and close that item. Thank you, Mr. Rickelman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.